Go ahead and get started.
All right, guys. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this Tuesday morning. We're going to have an hour together. We might go a little over with some Q&A. And I do recognize some faces in here. I know some of you are aspiring real estate agents. Some of you guys are investors. And today we're talking a lot about the mindset of being not only a real estate agent, but a business owner. And if you guys do have any questions, just some ground rules, please type them into the chat and we'll definitely cover them. If they're relevant for the specific slides or the upcoming, that we will make sure to cover them. Otherwise, we're going to be saving questions for the end. I just wanted to do a quick introduction. My name is Wilson and I lead our team here in the Peninsula. I've been in business for 9 years. And I've had some years that were low and I've had some years that were high. And we've progressed, and in the last 2 years, we've helped over 300 families buy, sell, invest, and also, of course, property management. And I would love to make you guys introductions to our team as well. So Jenny's here on the call and she will be co-hosting this with me. Jenny, maybe you can share a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Wilson. And before we dive in, can everyone make sure that they're on mute? And then you can always unmute yourself once you want to share a question. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So my name is Jenny. I used to work in corporate tech sales over at Oracle here in San Francisco Bay Area. Worked there for several years and came across a real estate seminar. Do you mind putting yourself on mute real quick?
I got it.
And overall, realized that getting into real estate was a way to build passive income through rental properties, and I started looking at ways to buy a house. So I bought my house in South San Francisco, just near the airport, south of the city, and started house hacking and bought that at the age of 23 years old. I rented out the other rooms to my colleagues at Oracle and other friends and realized, wow, I'm building equity and I don't have to pay rent anymore. So then I looked at investing and bought properties out of state. My first rental property was in Huntsville, Alabama. And then it's like, okay, how do I buy more properties? My initial mindset was to become an investor to build this passive income so I can retire ideally on that money, because I realized we're not going to have, especially at our age, any pensions or social security left. And then suddenly Wilson reached out to me and on Facebook and just said, hey, Jenny, have you ever considered a career in real estate and joining a team? I've always thought about real estate more so as a side hustle or a hobby to invest, but not to become a full-time real estate agent. Then after meeting with Wilson, I realized how much potential that we could have and how it would change the trajectory of my life. I was making just about 6 figures over at Oracle. And in the last few years, I've been able to double my income my first year in real estate and then double that again in the last few years as well too. So what that has allowed me to do is spend more time with my parents and my friends and my family, help people build wealth through real estate, finding their dream homes, selling and moving to a retirement area. And last year, I wish we had a photo, but I actually took my parents to Spain and paid all expenses for the Airbnbs and the flights and all the meals for them, because they've never been to Europe before, as they are immigrant parents, and they just worked hard and just knew how to work. So today we're really excited to share a little more about our journey and the mindset that we've gotten. Last year in 2019 I was awarded the 30 Under 30 Realtor of National Association of Realtors magazine. So anyone here under 30 right now? Raise your hand. Awesome. So I see a few hands, Elon, and so we can help. Jessica will help guide you on how to get that 30 under 30 as well.
Awesome. And one thing that Jenny didn't share with you about that story is the only reason I was a friend of hers on Facebook is because she came in as a Zillow lead looking for an investment property. So at that time, before I started my team, I added every single client that requested information on properties on websites. So, but just to give you a quick overview, we're going to be introducing ourselves, which we kind of did already. We're going to be learning about the 10 things that it'll take to succeed, and we might have some bonuses at the end too. And we're going to talk a little bit about our team and answer some Q&A. So we already did intros. Number one, it's a very easy barrier to entry, and 86% of agents fail. The question is, how can we succeed? If we know there's a lot of agents in the industry, how can we make sure we stand out from those? And what is it that's different from those that succeed? Jenny, you have any feedback on this?
Yeah, I would say overall, a lot of people think it's a quick buck or getting a deal, hey, get all this commission and make all this money. However, I think one of the first things is really thinking of a long-term strategy and how to, because in the beginning you're planting a lot of seeds and you have to water these seeds, and then eventually, even when you water them, they grow. You still need to keep tending to them. So overall, it's long-term and figuring out after a year and a half, 2 years. And one of my favorite books is Angela Duckworth's Grit, and she just mentions just being very gritty, and surrounding yourself with the right people is really important too.
Thank you, Jenny. And I wrote there in parentheses, it's an even playing field. If it's easy to get your license, most people are going to get it. And what are they really going to do with it? They might dabble here and there in certain activities or things, and they realize that, it's not as simple as looking for a commission check and have an expectation that you'll receive it. There's a lot more that goes into it. What you'll learn in real estate is it's a very long sales cycle. So some stats that I could share with you on our team is from the moment we meet a buyer. So for example, Jenny comes in on Zillow or Redfin or reaches out and it says she wants to buy a house. The average is it takes 3 months to get into contract. This is taking the most urgent buyer in the equation and also the person that says, I'm not looking to buy until fall or winter. Our average on a team is for a buyer, it takes 3 months from the inception of that relationship to putting it into contract, averaged out throughout a year of servicing buyers. Keep in mind this, it's 3 months plus there's still a 30-day escrow, assuming that escrow closes. So actually working with the lowest hanging fruit, which there's more abundant buyers than there are sellers in this market, as we know, at least in our market, in the peninsula, it's low inventory, low supply, high demand. It's going to take you 4 months to see your first commission check, even at the fastest, maybe a little faster if you already have people that you know that are looking to purchase something. On the sell side, it typically takes us 6.x amount of months from the inception of meeting the client to signing a listing agreement. Now, once you sign a listing agreement, you still have to prep the listing. It might take a month, and you have to be on the market. It might take 2 to 3 weeks. You might need to negotiate for a couple days, and you'll land in escrow. Assuming this escrow closes, best case scenario, that whole process for working with the seller takes about 9 months. Now, my question to you guys is, are you guys prepared with reserves when you jump into the field? Or if you're already in the field, can you also affirm that if you look back at your last 3 transactions, buyers or sellers, have you tracked these stats to find out exactly how long it took you to actually put them in contract and eventually successfully help them close on the property that they're purchasing or they're selling? So the reason why most people fail, which it's going to go into another one of these topics, is there's a lot of delayed gratification. What does delayed gratification look like, Jenny, in terms of your experience so far as a real estate agent?
I think overall, it does, as you mentioned, does take some time, and it's working on like every single day I have an example. I have a 100-point checklist of reaching out to as many people as possible. There's like 1 point per call I'm having. So it's making 100 calls, getting a lot of rejections, getting people saying, oh, I'm not ready. Oh, there's this pandemic going on, or I'm not, like, oh, I don't want to do anything. And then after many of those, then you'll find that person, hey, I want to invest during this time because it's a great time. There's less competition and rates are really low. So it does take a lot of time on task to make these calls, do the door knocks, and just reaching out to people. And I think overall what really kept us really successful is how can I, every interaction with that I have is how could I leave it better than I found it. So leaving every meeting and as long as they've learned something from it, and never think about the commission, never think about the sale. It's like, how can I educate them that they can just share with their friends, hey, I learned something great, let's say on this webinar or just from a meeting with them, and they never try to sell me on anything and never really think about the sale is what, how I've been able to really take every single day. And I've shifted my mindset of the delayed gratification. I don't think of the paycheck as gratification. I think of that relationship that I'm deepening with each person as gratification.
Love that. That's a great share. And do you have any comments on one of our team members always says and gives a tip to new agents that join the team or are exploring to join the team or join the industry in general, that in the beginning of your career, you have to eat a lot of shit sandwiches? What's your definition of that?
Yeah, overall, there's dirt sandwiches, there's shit sandwiches, and when you're given it, just kind of take it in and realize what is the lesson that you're learning from that maybe negative roller, like the downwards of the roller coaster, that shit sandwich, and what there will be an outcome from it, and it's all in the mindset of how you shift that, and maybe thinking, hey, I'm grateful to at least have food. At least I have a sandwich and something to work with, and it will feed me in some way. So then just really keeping positive is the main key.
And you shared actually a quote with me yesterday. Do you remember which one I'm referring to?
I share a lot of quotes with you. So.
It's the one where if someone says no to you or gives you a shit sandwich to eat, figure of speech, and rejects you in any sales, at least they didn't waste your time and waste your effort and waste your energy, and you can move on to the next person that actually wants your help. So what you'll realize is one of the biggest misconceptions in real estate is if you've been in a different sales industry, whether it's retail, whether it's corporate sales, you're basically going to be given direction and a list and certain things that you can, that is systemized already for you to follow. In real estate, once you get your license, once you talk to a broker, you get nothing. You get no direction. You might go to a class here and there, but past that, how do you justify and verify if your actions are leading to the betterment of your future in your career? And that's why it relates back to the previous slide. Why do so many people fail in our industry? Is because they realize, they see that some people are successful and they want the success too, or they realize that their time and effort in corporate, it's still, their promotion and their pay is still dictated by someone else. And at any moment, just like in this market, you could lose your job. How many people know of people that have lost jobs recently? Right? A lot of us. I do for sure. In real estate, you are always unemployed and you're employed by yourself. And we can only do so much to encourage ourselves to do things that we feel uncomfortable doing. And that's why if we know and we embrace the fact that there's delayed gratification, it's going to be important that you find good people and a good environment so you could succeed, so you can bring ideas up and get feedback, right? If you're going at it alone, imagine this, if you're planning to run a marathon, unless you're just super motivated for whatever reason, or you have some sort of pain, or you're looking forward to some sort of pleasure and you tie something to succeeding at running the marathon, it's going to be hard day 1, day 2, day 30, day 60, day 90 to keep up the miles and miles and miles if you don't have your eyes on the prize that you've identified that you want. And even if you've identified that, what is to say that when it gets tough on day 31 that you rather go buy some Baskin Robbins ice cream instead of go run that extra miles that you should be doing, right? It's hard to be accountable to ourselves. And what we realize is, especially in this industry, when there's so much ambiguity and the unknown, it's going to be even more important that you find the right people to surround yourselves with and be in an environment that's inducive on productivity. Down on the bottom, I wrote time on task over time. That is doing something that you believe, that you've been shared with, that you've been mentored on over time, just like running the mile every day, even though you don't see your calves getting bigger, or even though you're not shaving an extra second or two off your mile time, right? You know, going through the repetition is going to be helpful for the betterment for your future, even though the results are not immediate. We are so used to looking at social and expecting that when I post something, I might get a like, or when I post something, someone's going to comment on it. And we're so used to that we're expecting that. So setting the groundwork and the frame up front, it's going to be important for us to acknowledge that things will take more time. And how do we know if we're on the right track? If you're by yourself, it's going to be difficult. You need to have appropriate people in your lives. You need to be in an environment that you can verify what you're doing, especially when you're venturing to do something new. And I wrote at the end, and more time on task and task over time. It's a repeat. So number 3.
Hey, Jenny, before we go on to number 3, Wilson and Jenny, there was a private question that came in regards to the overall topic of what we're talking about. And just clarify that this is not only for under 30 agents. There's a question around, is this possible for people that are not 30 under 30? What's the barrier of entry for them that might not have achieved that and they're past 30? Is it still possible? So a little bit of clarification that this is just not for that specific group. Can reassess that. And then there's a question from here after that as well.
Okay.
Yep.
I can dive
Jenny,
in.
you can talk about that.
Yeah, so overall, we have all different mix of age groups here. Wilson's not under 30, so.
I'm older for sure.
Yes, but it's all realizing, hey, you can be in any different age group to get into this industry, and it's more so sharing the success, how we've been able to do it in a short amount of time, just being in real estate in 2.5, 3 years of being able to get this accomplishment. And specifically to Mahir's question, if we provide training, we will dive into training a little more. Most of our team members are here on the team. Hassam, Ashley, Ellie, Shay is our intern, and we do provide a lot of great training, and that's how we've been able to truly create that synergy, like overall interdependency is what the word is, to really succeed together. Would you suggest getting the license then joining the team? There's different routes. I would recommend getting a license at this time, but we've had some members who joined as a unlicensed assistant to get into the field to just understand overall what the process might look like, help with some of the marketing on the back end, just being in the industry and seeing if it's right for them first. And then would you suggest someone that has been in sales and wants a career change into real estate? Definitely. I was in sales, sold technology. And one of the biggest things coming from corporate, I've sold life insurance, I've sold shoes, I've sold candy during high school. I've sold a lot of different things in my life, and Oracle technology and cloud. A lot of it, I realized I wasn't passionate about any of these products or solutions because it was not something that can tie to a long-term goal. Maybe life insurance, it does, but it was sometimes dark to talk about versus real estate. You can actually physically see it. It's a hard asset where you can go see the homes versus when I was selling Oracle and tech, I was like, what is this cloud that they keep on talking about? How am I supposed to sell this product that I don't even really fully understand? So being really passionate about it, and we all live in a home. Like whether our apartment, we're all quarantined right now. So we're in a home somewhere, whether it's an apartment, a condo or something. So everyone can relate. And then the smartest steps to follow, we're going through a 10-step process right now. So we'll continue
Yep.
on step 3.
So number 3, Parentals principle. Some of you might have heard it before, some of you might not. What it says is 20% of what you do is going to get you majority or 80% or more of the results. So the question is, in sales and real estate, what is that 20%? Jenny, what is that 20%? How would you define that?
I'm on mute. 20% is, for me, it's keeping it simple, building relationships. And it's talking to people, getting to know them, seeing what their goals are. So just go back to building relationships. And then eventually it'll go into negotiating and certain other things like showing property. But even showing property for me is not my 20%. We do have awesome teammates. Ashley's on the team. She's helping our clients show properties at this time.
Yep. So going off what Jenny said, there's really 5 core activities that you will do as a real estate agent. It's closing escrow so you can get paid. It's getting people into contract, which means you need, in order to close escrows, you need to get them into contract, which means you need to sign contracts. If you're signing contracts, you're likely meeting someone via Zoom or meeting them in person. And of course, before you get there, you have to follow up with people. And actually it's 6. In order for you to follow up people or have people to follow up with, you need to make sure you talk to new people. You can't close contracts unless you open contracts. You don't have contracts open unless you sign contracts or you sign agreements. You cannot sign agreements unless you meet people face to face and talk about their needs and wants. And you can't meet with people unless you're following up with people. And you don't have anyone to follow up with unless you talk to new people. The quality is in the quantity of people that you talk to. So going off what Jenny said, building relationships. What does that look like, right? The question is, how much time are you actually spending talking to people, right? There's only 2 types of people out there. People you know and people you don't know. Which group is bigger? How much time can I realistically spend with the people I already know and call them so frequently where I could find every source of, let's say, deal or lead until I run out. So we need to make sure the most important thing that we need to do in any sales, especially real estate, is reaching out to new people and having new conversations and building relationships with new people. So if we have a hesitation for that, we need to get uncomfortable. If we're not used to that, we need to get uncomfortable. If we're used to that, thumbs up. You're on the right track. You just need to be accountable to your calendar. How much time are you putting on your calendar to do the most important activities? If you're starting out in real estate, or if you're not experiencing as much success in real estate, it's going to be important that you time block that one competency and task for a long period of time. And it's hard to stick to a window of 2, 3, 4 hours of doing that, which means you need to create an environment and be in an environment that's inducive on making sure that you stick to it. If you know out of those 6 things, it starts with that. Anything else to add to this, Jenny?
I think just keeping it simple too, and just focusing on how to make that relationship better and how can we grow together.
Yep. Leaving someone better than where you found them, as you would say. Number 4, the value of a team versus the value of an individual. It always comes down to one question. What's the value of your time? Now, I want you to think about it from a doctor's office analogy perspective. If you walked into your doctor's office and he was competent in what he was doing, but he signed you in as a receptionist, he made you fill out a form, He collected payment as a receptionist. He walked you in and took your measurements, your height, your weight. He asked you how you felt. He brought you into the room, and he also diagnosed and prescribed you, and he shook your hand and he thanked you. And he said, I have to go to my next appointment. How would you feel when you walked into that doctor's office, when you know he couldn't afford his receptionist, he couldn't afford his nurse? You probably think something's wrong. Why can't he? This is not your common operation. But why is that in real estate? Everyone gets their license and they assume that they're supposed to be doing every little part of the process. So the question is, in your field of what you do, what's the value of your time? If you salespeople out there are specifically focused 6 to 8 hours on selling and signing contracts, are you the one fulfilling the paperwork? Are you the one educating the client on your platform? Or is that someone else, right? Usually if we have certain tasks for certain people, we have specialization and we have focus and we're not task switching, we have more energy to spend on that specific thing that we've deemed the most important that we should be doing. Jenny, any feedback on team versus individual?
As many people say, you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So it's not just personality wise, what you like and dislike and kind of your hobbies, but there's also actually, if you take the average of the 5 people of their income of what they're making. One question Legend mentioned, how much money will I make in my first year? Money is the value, right, that we're trying to figure out, and maybe thinking it more of, okay, what is that going to do for me? And overall, seeing that value of the team, we've been able to do a lot more together and focus on our strengths. So for example, I'm a natural, probably person who wants to be out there talking and building relationships. I'm not very great with getting all the DocuSign and signatures on documents. So we have certain people, Kathy and Maureen and Priscilla, to handle that process. Because if I were writing contracts, that would take me like 2 hours within a day to do that, versus it would take them 10, 15 minutes to do that. So focusing on what you're good at and then letting other people, finding other people on replacing your weaknesses. So hiring out your weaknesses and working with the team around that.
Thank you for adding feedback, Jenny.
Just to piggyback off that real quick, Jenny, I think it's very important to also acknowledge, I like your analogy of the value of money and what it actually means. And Carl Batiste told me one time, and Carl's a good friend of ours and an agent here in the East Bay, that the amount of money you make is really tied to how big your why is. And I think all of us on this team, and we preach the value of your why, and a lot of you guys that might not know what that is, Jenny and Wilson can speak on that because they have very strong whys. But depending on how strong your why is, I think it's very important that that will guide you to make the most amount of money you can, because that's why you're doing it for. And that's what I do it for. So maybe you guys can speak on that as well maybe later on.
Absolutely. So we'll definitely cover that as we get closer to the end of the presentation, since I want to make sure I jump through all the items. So number 5 is the business person mentality versus the salesperson mentality. In the business versus on the business, production versus production capacity, skills for sales versus skills for leadership. If we understand the concept of 80-20 and the team versus the individual, and you understand the value of your time, we are acknowledging the fact that we cannot do everything. And if we're not suited to do everything, we should also acknowledge that we have a focus that we need to spend more time on, but also we need to be able to make sure that we're able to work with other people. So for those that are working right now in corporate or in sales, clearly you have a team, right? You're working with other people. Now in real estate, it's a little different from corporate, because in corporate, you don't have to work on the business. You just have to show up, produce, sell, you'll make your money, right? Going back to the question that someone had, how much money could I make? It's really dependent on the time and effort you want to spend, and time and effort over time, right? So working on the business looks like building a system that's going to be making my future easier or making my life easier in a specific part of the process. Let's say, for example, my follow-up. If I have templated emails that I will send to certain people when they get introduced and added into our database, that's a system. That's working on the business versus reinventing the wheel every single time when you add someone to the database. I mean, if you want to scale a big business, you won't be able to spend time on every single email, especially if you're talking to and adding a lot of people. So the question is, how are you systemizing your business if you're repeatedly doing a certain activity? Or how can you systemize your business to make your life easier so you can focus on the most important task of that day, which is really talking to people, right? Other than talking to people, what else are you doing? Writing it down and making sure that you can work on the business and you time block another time to be able to do that. Otherwise, you're not improving the betterment of your business. That goes to the 7 habits of production versus production capacity. We can always focus on production. We could always show up. Let's say we're really good at calling people for 4 to 8 hours a day. But if you don't really think about the betterment of your business and the betterment of your future, you're not going to work on your capacity. What if you document the way that you talk to your clients? What if you document the way that you respond to your clients, that you take them through the sales cycle? If you never document it, how can you create predictability in your process and deliver higher expected results, right? And what you'll realize is being a salesperson, that's a successful individual versus being a business person. You need to succeed with others because you acknowledge that there's more that you could do together with more people. Jenny, any feedback on this?
Yeah, I think going specifically into systems, there are some questions what we use, and it's really important, like we're in the Bay Area, it's really important to work with the technology, especially, for example, right now in the pandemic that's going on, leveraging Zoom, for example, and following up with our past clients. I see Jeff here. Thanks for joining our 4th webinar now. And we leverage Chime as our CRM and just have our emails, follow-up templates, and that we can reach out to 1,000 people within a few minutes. So those are other specific things around creating the systems, and always look at ways of improving too, and always asking for feedback constantly from other team members and from your clients and how it made them feel throughout it. Did it seem templated? A lot of people think it is personal emails sometimes.
Yeah, talking about emails in our templates, one of the most responded to emails that we have is just a simple ask. Hey, Jenny, it's been a while since we met. I really wanted to get to know you a little bit better. When would you have some time so we can grab coffee? I would love to learn about you and your goals. Would you like to meet at the local Pear Spaghetti, or would you like to meet at the local Phil's? Look forward to your response. That gets a high response. Next is, we discussed this, relationships versus sales. Our title is a salesperson. However, as we know, we don't sell real estate. We build relationships to get them to the point where they feel comfortable and they raise their hand and they say, hey, Jenny, I want to seek your assistance and your knowledge and your experiences to help me with buying and selling a home. And it's up to Jenny to share with the individual that she cares, that she wants to understand why this person is doing what they're doing, and to guide them through that process. If Jenny just says, oh, great, I smell a commission check, I can't wait to help you, that's going to come across very differently from Jenny really caring about the person she's working with. And we'll get into a little bit more about what caring looks like and why that's so important. So here, develop strong personal and professional relationships and with advocates. Building relationships with lenders, lawyers, contractors, raving fans. Jenny, you have anything to add to these?
For those, I would say, how can we make it about them? Not be like, hey, can you send me referrals? It's like, okay, like you're looking to grow your lending business. I really applaud you for what you've been doing so far. It looks like you work really hard. Let's put together a webinar so we can increase your clientele. So always make it about the next person that's sitting across the table or across the screen right now, since we can't really meet face to face at a coffee shop at a table. So how can we create that fun environment where it's all about how can we make them succeed? Another tip that I had is never ever count your commission checks before or the sale before it closes. So we might have like an estimate of what it is, but I never calculate it ever. I just like see it come into the bank account after it closes, and then I'm like, okay, I'll add it into my profit and losses. But if you think about that, that's gonna come off when you're talking to people. Oh, I'm gonna make like X amount of dollars from this sale. So that's one big tip that that has really helped me.
Yep. And just going back to, I know there's 2 1s, but they should be 1, 2, and 3. Building relationships, strengthening relationships, and everything else. How much time are you spending on 1 and 2? And how much time are you spending on number 3, everything else, right? If we had to take inventory of our day, especially as real estate agents, even if we are experiencing success, what we tend to see is we don't spend enough time building and strengthening relationships. We're trying to keep things simple here. However, simple sometimes is boring, but simple works. So we just need to make sure we're accountable to ourselves to always be out there and have conversations. That's it. There's nothing else to that. Number 7, you will need a mentor. We've talked about environment. We've talked about having a mentor, having a coach, having people to make sure that you run ideas with and gather feedback. Because if you're doing it alone, it's going to be pretty tough. And even before we jump into the 3 things that we have written down here, how do you know if your mentor is good? Here's how I know. I look for a mentor that has achieved something or is doing something that I admire, because we shouldn't be reinventing the wheel on what we believe should or shouldn't work, right? We need to appreciate the fact that people have done many things before us that we could leverage so we could save time, right? If time is a scarce resource, if time is a limited resource, we need to make sure that we're not wasting it, right? I know sometimes it might be easier for us, or it might feel better for our entrepreneurial spirit to follow what our gut and what our heart tells us. But when it comes to joining a new field, it's going to be important that you find someone that's going to provide you guidance so you can shortcut failures and get to whatever you define success faster. And whatever you define as success, hopefully there is alignment and shared vision for goals that not only your team or your brokerage has, but of course for yourself, right? Goals should be mutual, right? Just because I want to achieve a goal and Jenny wants to achieve something else, how can we tie it together where we're both working towards it and we're celebrating both of our successes and we can get further together, versus saying, Jenny, you have a different goal. I don't see us helping each other. That's a win-lose. How can we create win-win with a shared vision of doing something and accomplishing something together? Next is accountability, inspecting what we expect. Jenny, you have any comments on this?
Yeah, a lot of accountability is really important for us. A lot of people think, hey, let me get my real estate license. And a lot of other realtors, I know there's a few other realtors, you don't have to say if you're guilty of this, they might sleep in and say, hey, like, I'm just gonna talk to a few people today. Oh, I'm gonna go tour some homes and just show some properties, or like go do those things, but they're not building in deepening relationships. So for us as accountability, we meet every single day as a team virtually on Huddle now. Previously was in person at 8:30 in the morning, go over what we are grateful for every day, what wins we had the previous day or the weekend, and then we'll go into just diving into some of the objections that we're having. There was one mentioned earlier about the market and where do we see the Bay Area market? How are we handling those objections? So keeping each other accountable. We're keeping track of every single conversation we're having as well on a shared Google spreadsheet to make sure that we're constantly on top of following up with customers and actually doing work, not just watching Tiger King or something else like at home or Ozark. Probably great shows, but overall it's still making sure that you are being accountable and putting yourself up for challenges too, such as like my 100-point daily checklist. I'm like, there's been days where I'm like, oh, I don't want to do much, but I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this because I've committed to other people that they should do it too.
Yep. And one thing about accountability, inspecting what you expect, that assumes, the assumption that's created is what there's something that we are expecting. And defining what that is going to be very important, especially if we are not saying we can get an escrow every day that we're in real estate, right? So how can we define if we're winning today or if we lost today? For us on the team, there's specific standards that we perform by every day, and that's going to be talking to X amount of people. At this very moment during the shelter, it's 25 contacts every day. A contact is literally, I have a conversation with someone that's thinking about buying or selling, or someone that we think might be a good fit on a team. That's one contact. We need 25 of those every day, because if we track that, then we're going to have 125 in a week. And if you compare the two routes you could take, if you have no accountability and no measurement of you succeeding in real estate versus someone that has, let's say, 25 contacts they track every day, how much further and how much will that compound in a week, in a month, in 3 months? How many more experiences, how many more conversations will you have if you were the person that took that little incremental movement every day versus winging it and being entrepreneurial and doing what you think is most effective with your time? And the last on this slide is making sure that you have the training. Sorry, my screen's blocking me a sec. The training, role play, troubleshooting, shared experiences, tools and systems that already work. There's a lot that goes into it. You know, being in the field for 9 years, I could have been that person that is just successful at closing and helping multiple families in a year. But how can I advance my career? How can I advance my team? That's going to be creating training, making sure that we have conversations on objections, or having conversations on thoughts that people might have, limiting beliefs, troubleshooting every day, meeting every day so we can talk about it. It's kind of like if you get on a flight and your pilot is taking you to New York right now, but he has his eyes off the plane and the buttons and the measurements. Even for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you know, if he falls asleep for an hour, do you think you're going to be off track? Probably. You know, if you take a look at a plane or you take a look at a rocket going to the moon, there's many, many micro adjustments that are had. The question is, in your current field or in your personal goals and endeavors, how often have you checked in with yourself to know that you're aligned with what you originally had set out to do and accomplish? Anything else to add to this, Jenny?
Yeah, so I think some people are asking about objection handling and where do we go to better ourselves on scripts. So it goes all into training and surrounding yourself with the right people. Wilson does lead a coaching class on Wednesdays, typically virtually on Zoom, from people around the whole country. So we have people out in New York, people in LA, and people here locally as well too. So we're going over a lot of script practice with that. If you're not on our team specifically, that's another channel. Tom Ferry is amazing. I've listened to a lot of his podcasts and his videos as well too. So another thing I like to share is always be a student, always be learning, always be training yourself and trying to learn different skills and techniques. I know Jeff here, he's always learning and coming on all of our webinars. Other specific tactical ones that I like is, my favorite book is Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference. So that talks about how to handle a lot of objections. And a lot of the time is not about the script. So it's more so getting the person to not believe in what you're saying. It's getting them to believe in you, that you believe what you are saying. So being a new agent specifically, a lot of people might not show off the confidence of being able to say, hey, you should buy this home. But for me, I think what has helped me set up myself apart is having gone through the process and buying an investment property, buying a $67,000 property in Alabama that I put like 20K down. So if you've saved up enough, you can go through that process yourself as well and see what on the other side as a buyer, how do you want to be treated? How were you treated? How would you have acted differently? And if you don't even have the funds to purchase an investment property or any property, I would say still go out there, interview a lot of agents as you were a buyer. And if you have a family member who owns a home, be like, hey, can we like practice and say, hey, if you have any goals of selling, can we see what other agents are doing? So those are other live examples I would say to recommend to better yourself on scripts.
Love that. And number 8, 9, and 10. These are some of the values we have on our team and some of the things that we look for when we're looking for a potential recruit or agent that wants to join the field. The first is coming from contribution and curiosity. Jenny had mentioned this already. How can I make sure that when I enter a conversation, I can make sure I better that person with knowledge, or I can listen to them and care for them, which goes to number 9, caring for others, so that if there is an opportunity to help them with a problem that they have, they're going to be comfortable with sharing that with me, and I can present some sort of solution to help them. What will you give before you receive? How often have we thought about the relationships we have, and if we're taking more than we're receiving, or if we're giving more than we're receiving, right? So you should take inventory of this. Think about, what am I doing today to add value to the 25 people that I'm going to come in contact with? What you'll be surprised to find is a lot of times, especially right now, the value that you provide is not your professional opinion, is not what you're going to say, is not your knowledge. It's not the questions that you're going to ask. Surprisingly, it's your attention and your time. That's it. You show up, you intently listen, you're 10 out of 10 present to listen to what they have to say and their concerns. That's even before you start caring. That already shows you're caring. You just have to show up and listen and understand what they're going through. And that itself is valuable. We built our business on door knocking, on canvassing, at least a big part of it. A lot of times we're out there, we don't have a motive. We might have something to share. We might know how to take that script to talk about business, but we don't talk about business. Our intent, our initial conversation is always just about, hey, how's your day going? We just want to be present for the people that we show up for. And it's a choice that we show up in the neighborhoods because we can predictably say majority of these people are homeowners, and homeowners, life happens, someday they want to sell. And who do they remember? That nice guy that showed up at the door and was providing something of value, which is their time and attention. That's how you show in number 9, you care. And we talked about this too. How often do we come across, oh my gosh, that's going to be a $20,000 commission check? Yeah, I would love to help you. And that's all I'm thinking about. And I come across, and they can tell that I'm just there for the money. Anything to add to the number 8 and 9, Jenny?
I think caring for others and going back to what Hassan mentioned in the beginning, what really helped me, and especially as a new agent, when people are like, oh, how long have you been in the business and all this, I would leverage the team and just say like how we've helped many people, but I would go back to what my big why is, and then understanding their why. So I share with all the clients that I meet, hey, this is why I got into this business. This is where I came from corporate, but I realized that like I want to be able to provide for my parents and do more for them. They were immigrants. They came from China in the 1980s, not even knowing how to speak English. They still barely speak English. They work in a clothing factory, 12 hours, 14-hour days, 7 days a week. So my goal is to help them retire. What are some of your goals that you want to accomplish? And when we meet people, like for example, during open houses, Ellie, she's on the call on our team as well. One thing that really helped her is just asking, hey, what are your short-term goals? What are your long-term goals? And it doesn't have to be around real estate. So just showing that you really, really are curious and care about what they want to accomplish. And it's all about relationship building, and it's not about selling a house. It's about really helping them with their dreams and their goals.
Yep, and understanding that it takes a lot of time to do that. And Jenny, what you mentioned about your story, it's tied to number 10. It's fucking hard work. For those that show up every day and go to the office and don't do jack shit with their time, they're not going to accomplish anything. Let's say you do have that 25 contacts, but if you don't tie it, when day 4, day 5, day 31, just like running that mile every day for your preparing for your marathon, when shit gets tough, what does your mind get drawn to? Does it get drawn to that Costco pizza like mine, or that Baskin Robbins ice cream that that you're dying for or you're thinking about? Or have you tied your goal? I mean, we all have goals. We all know what success looks like and how we define it, right? But it's also tied to if we have and define success in our dreams, it's because we've had some pain in the past, right? We don't have dreams. We can't have, there's contrast, right? We have to understand that if we have a goal, it's because we had something in our previous life or currently that we're not satisfied with. And how unhappy are you with that right now? Also embracing, of course, the path to get to success or happiness. How are you correlating the two, and how are you reminding yourself when things get tough? Because when things get tough, we tend to default to being comfortable. And if we don't have accountability, it's really easy to upset ourselves. But if you have the appropriate people, if you're doing something like real estate, if you're going through uncomfortableness for someone else, it might be a little bit easier for you to overcome some of the thoughts, limiting beliefs, and some of the, your tendency to be comfortable. And it's tied to the thing that I talk about this all the time. Number 11, you consult with people, you don't sell people, right? Selling is talking about the present time, about the process. How much money can you get? How much money will you save? How much commission is it going to cost? How much money am I going to make? What does selling look like? How long does it take? What are the comparables, right? What are the disclosures saying? None of this matters, right? As a salesperson, yes, it's important for us to know the process, the knowledge, but it's more important for us to consult. They reached out to you because they have a future plan and goal, and they want to be able to share with you what pleasure looks like for them, what that goal looks like. It's our job as agents to probe deeply to understand what drives them, which is what is the goal, and to dig deeper to understand what are the specifics about it. And going back to what I said earlier, there has to be contrast in their lives. So it's also our job as agents to understand their current situation, their past, which is their pain, and understand why they want to do something about it. Whether it's, I have a landlord that is so shitty, he's not taking care of the property, and I hate my living situation, or I can't stand living with my in-laws anymore, and I really just have to find another place to live. Or I'm relocating for my job, and I see that the commute's going to be a lot worse, and I don't want to sit in traffic for 2 hours to and from work. We need to make sure that as consultants, we talk about the past and the future. We build trust that way. We show that we care. And then, of course, at that point, once we understand what they're looking to do, we can talk about the process. Anything to add to this, Jenny?
Yeah, and I think you always hit it in a nail and realize sometimes I still get bogged down in the process, so it's a good reminder, and realizing, hey, just simply asking to break this down, like, what are your short-term goals? Tell me a little more about that. Always dig a little deeper and ask the next question. always there when someone picks up, oh, I'm busy right now, just still ask like, oh, it sounds like you're very busy right now, and just wanted to check in if you got the email, or just always ask one more question, or and always be curious. And that's how we've been able to handle a lot of objections, is figuring out, okay, just getting them until they feel more comfortable and showing that we're truly curious.
Yep. And the question now is it worth it? I know we talked a lot about mindset. We didn't go down into scripts, but is it worth it? How would you answer that question? Not just with a yes or no, but to back it up.
Is it worth it? Say that I posted on my LinkedIn that I've heard that you have one of three things. You have either a job, a career, or a calling, unless you're probably retired and you might not be working anymore. But from one of those three things, I felt like I had a job. Once I got promoted, it seemed like a good, but then once I've shifted into real estate, hey, this is my calling. And there's something called ikigai in the Japanese culture, where people, if you see like Jiro dreams of sushi, he's living and going to be feeding people amazing sushi throughout the rest of his life till he passes away, because this is his calling. And what I see here is like, I'm not working every single day. I'm building relationships and I'm following my calling, what I'm meant to do. And it might transition. It might not be going just from like real estate sales, but might be more so leading a team, going on more speaking engagements, but still tied within real estate. So I would say, is it worth it? There's been a lot of definitely emotional roller coasters, up and down, but overall it's been a great trajectory of positive energy here in this real estate environment, where we're able to help people accomplish their dreams of getting an awesome home, buy rental properties, taking my parents on trips as well, seeing Europe for the first time. And right now, like, they're quarantined at home, but knowing that I'm able to help afford any of their expenses if they need it. So being able to get them to retirement if they do want to get to retirement.
I love that. Thanks, Jenny, for sharing that. And I think if you look at Jenny's trajectory, she wants it bad enough. She has a desire, and she's tied her activities that she does daily and in her work to something that she wants to accomplish. And how she defined it early on in her career was making sure that she gets her family to a better place. So for a lot of us on a team, it's going to be very similar, right? It's, a little bit about myself is I grew up in San Francisco, Chinatown, and my family had nothing. We had a 2-bedroom apartment, and we lived there for the longest time. And I saw, and tied to our mission statement, my family build wealth through real estate, where they acquired properties, they worked hard, they took risk. And it's a different lifestyle for us. I think a lot of us, we might be second, third generation. I hope I don't offend you if you're the immigrant of the family where you immigrated to the US here, but we are all, at a certain extent, having an easier way of life because of someone else in our family tree. And the question is, how are you going to take advantage of this position that you've been given? Yeah, I get it. Today we have a shelter. There's certain things that we can't do. We have to stay at home. But think about it. What if there was a war going on? One of our team members just came from Iran. What if you lived in a oppressive country? How many people think China's lying about their numbers, right? If there's no media there. What do we know about China is if you speak up, you fucking get killed. You get taken to prison, you get tortured, right? We have the luxury of lifestyle here. We have the luxury of choice to become a real estate agent. It's easy to get licensed. Now, once you're on the field, are you going to succumb to your easy way of life and being comfortable? Or are you going to seek out the help and the feedback that you need to succeed? And it's easier said than done. It's how will you stick it out when it gets tough, when it gets boring? And I can share with you, it's absolutely worth it. To making sure that there is a challenge of working with various people, having a lot of conversations. But what I realize is it's so much more worth it to do it with other people, to see them succeed, to have them learn at a faster level and a faster pace so they can make the income that they want to make, and they can take time off when they want to. That's the luxury of real estate. We don't have PTO. We don't have, if I leave for a long period of time, lose our job. Because we have a team to support any business that we already have. And if we have built a business and it takes our time to continue to nurture those relationships, just because I take vacation doesn't mean the business is going to falter. So income is one thing, but lifestyle is another. And this is definitely a lifestyle. You might have to work a little harder in the beginning to get to the point where you're more comfortable. And that's why it's important for you to take inventory of what you're doing today, so you can make sure that you're on pace to have a better place, to get to a better place in the future. So who's WLREA? It's our team. If you have questions, post in the chat, and we'll spend some time doing Q&A. We've helped 347 families. Some of our team members are on the call today. Really appreciate everyone being here. And you can follow myself and Jenny on Instagram or send us specific questions, personal questions, if you guys have any. But let's do some Q&A. I know we have some questions. And thank you for joining a little bit later than 11. We'll stay as long as people have some questions, and we'll make sure to answer them.
Wilson, I have two questions for you. One's from Alan and one's from Stan. First one from Alan is the market question. Given recent events, what's your outlook on the Bay Area real estate market for the next year, possibly 5 years? Is your expectation a minor correction or a crash? Generally, how do new agents fare in weak markets like 2008?
Love that. I've always been trained from my mentor, my first mentor, that the time that you can gain the most market share is in a down market, because most people, if they thought a good market was hard to succeed in, this is even harder. So it's a lot of expense management. It's a lot of number tracking. It's a lot of boring shit, to be honest. But if you survive, who's going to gain the market share from the people that leave the business? If you think about the national statistic of the average age of a real estate agent, they're in their early 50s. Do you think these people are as adaptable than us, right? Or do you think these people might leave the business because they're thinking about getting closer to retirement? So who's going to stick around to gain the market share to make sure that there are people that we could help? If there's less people in the field, it's an even playing field. If it's tough for us, it's tough for them. So how I perceive the market, my favorite article that I've read recently is from Goldman Sachs interpretation of how this virus is affecting, obviously, the market and real estate, where they say that this is more of an event like 9/11. But are we preparing for the worst just in case that happens, right? The thing that we need to be aware of is opportunity. There's a lot of opportunity out there right now. As much as people might be losing their jobs, people have expenses to pay and they don't have revenue coming in. There's a lot of opportunity for us to take. The question is, how are you shifting your mindset and your attitude around it to make sure you can capitalize, no matter if it's going to take 3 months, 6 months, a year? Make sure that you check your mentality. Make sure you're fucking working. That's what it comes down to. I don't know if I answered all those questions.
Wilson, here's one from Stan. It's a private question that came in. Is Wilson taking anybody who wants to join his team, or is there an interview process? Can I do this while keeping my full-time job?
We are recruiting. There is a process. If you are curious and you want to learn more, you have questions, feel free to reach out via email. In terms of having a full-time job, as you can tell, real estate takes a lot of time up front and takes a lot of commitment. It's going to take your full time. And for those that have jobs and want to think about it as part-time, it works. It's just that if you have a client, if you have a family member or friend that's expecting service from you, and you can't provide it because you're at your full-time job, Hopefully you've aligned yourself with the team to at least make sure that that client's serviced. The question comes down to, how can I add value to my client? And number two, am I giving the client the best service, right? Do I believe what I provide to my client is the absolute best out there? If you don't, then you've already lost, right? Do you believe you can be that person to help your client? Because if you don't, it's going to show. You're not going to spend the time, you're going to lose, and you're going to have spent some time and wasted time because you're not committed. So it will take full-time commitment, or it will take identifying how many hours you can set aside to hone your skills, to spend time in the field, and to make sure that you're working on the activities that matter the most. Any comments to add to that, Jenny?
So I think, just to give a little more like background, I was working at Oracle. I was actually like interviewing for other companies at the time because I wanted to increase my income, my base, so I can increase my debt to income ratio so I can buy more properties. And I was in the midst with talking to Wilson and looking at joining part-time until I got fully licensed and just got some deals under my belt. Then just something hit me. I was like, why do I want to commit 50% or so to my career at Oracle or the new job I was gonna potentially go into, and like 50% into real estate? Why not just commit 100% into real estate? Because then I can fully service my clients. And looking at the experiences where we've ended up working, like Ellie, I know Ellie's here, and Hassam on our team, they've worked with and competed with a lot of, like worked with a lot of clients who were working with their family friend who just had a part-time, like who just had the real estate license, and other people were writing like offers, like 25 offers for the last year and a half, looking at properties and not winning a home. And they didn't even know what contingencies were, and it wasn't explained to them. And then Ellie got them under contract by the second offer after they decided to work with our team instead, because we are working full-time, dedicated to calling, to helping, making sure they get the best service. And on the flip side, as sellers and representing sellers, we're calling all the agents as well too, of all the offers that come in. So let's say we get 10 offers, and we've gone one time, Hassam can share a little more, but I'll use his story where he called all the agents. There was the highest offer, but the agent didn't pick up because this was his part-time job. And he didn't even get back to us until like a day and a half later, and we already accepted a different offer. The second offer was able to come up, and they were the highest initial offer. So those are a lot of key things within negotiation, that timing is very important. And if you're not able to fully service them, then align yourself, maybe get your real estate license, be a referral agent, refer it to a local team here. We would be happy to service them. We don't just cover the peninsula. We've helped people San Francisco, East Bay, South Bay, San Jose, Marin County, Petaluma, like all over. So we want to make sure that that client is being very well serviced. And I own a property as well too. And seeing my property values, and like when I see other listings come up in the area, I'm like, wow, this agent didn't even take good photos or like do any updates, and that's decreasing my property value of my house because they hired their family friend. So that's something that hurts the neighborhood. So that's where it's really important for us to like, hey, go out there to make sure that all of our neighbors keep up their property values as well, to make sure that their home is best sold.
Yeah, just to add a little bit quickly to that, I think part-time, full-time, it comes down to commitment. And one of the best examples I can give you is this. Let's say I want to get married, but I'm half committed. How will my partner feel? I don't think that works, right? So commitment is important. Sorry, Sherm, you had a question?
And I was gonna say there's a bunch of questions coming in, but whenever you guys are, we can go to the next one whenever you guys are ready. Here's one from Jeff D a little while back that mentioned, what objections do you get most often as new agents with no experience, and how do you handle them? Jenny, maybe a few examples.
I think I touched on it earlier, just switching it back on them, figuring out what their goals are, and sharing my goals is how I've handled a lot of the objections, and tying yourself to a great team or a great brokerage and leveraging the stats of the brokerage. Hey, we sold this, and like we sold this home across the street, as in we as a realtor community, not like I sold it. And it's not saying it's a lie, it's just shifting your words and just showing it up with confidence is the key factor.
Thank you.
Yep. I think a lot of people, if you're new, you might assume that you're going to get the question a lot. Hey, how many years have you been in the business? I can guarantee you they're not going to ask that question as long as you focus on the past and their future, their pain and their pleasure that they've identified. If you're willing to listen to them, they're not going to ask.
Thank you. Here's one from Chanel. What direction would you provide for new agents looking to join a team? Would you recommend new agents, how would they search for teams, accepting new agents if they're looking for new teams?
I can go on that real quick. Basically, just like if you're applying for a job you really want, be proactive. Reach out to a lot of people. Have some variances in your experiences. It's kind of like if I go interview at one place to buy my next car without comparing it to other dealerships, am I really going to get the best price and service? How do I even understand if it is the best price and service? I have nothing to compare it to. So if I were you, I would do your due diligence and talk to multiple people. The team is supposed to provide you with guidance and value and systems and share that with you. If they're unwilling or incapable of producing something to show evidence of success, then you should question. Jenny, any feedback on that?
If you're not locally here in the Bay Area, I would say, because you can ask us and other specific teams locally, but what I would do is look on Zillow and look at Yelp and see who is investing in their teams, like who has good reviews, who has positive things to say. So I think that's where I got connected with Wilson. He was top on Zillow and had the most sales in the city I was looking for a home in. And when I look for other agents, when I'm looking for property out of state, I asked my internal group of we've taken a class called Bold, and I ask for referrals from other agents, but I also do research online to see who has good reviews and who's willing to adapt to technology to like invest in their business.
Thank you. Here's one from DJ who mentioned, why do people think of real estate as a waste of time if the potential to have a surplus of money is there?
I think that's tied to the failure rate. A lot of people that have their license because it's easy to get, they don't treat it as a full-time job. And even if they do, they get to the point of failure, and failure is only when you quit, right? So most people, they quit and they start spreading a message. It's kind of like I just read something about COVID-19 and it's the gloomiest article online I share with all my friends. Am I doing them a service or disservice? Who knows, right? I'm just sharing my opinion. So that's why it's important to surround yourself with important people, with good people. It will give you good data, will give you good feedback, will support you in your endeavor. Not just because you quit your full-time job and you became a real estate agent, it's 1099 all the way, full commission, and they tell you, oh my gosh, you quit your six-figure job. Are you stupid? Right? Do you have those people in your life, or do you have the people in your life that are saying, fucking go get it, man. I know you know what it takes, and you'll align with the right people. I think you'll succeed, right? Who do you have in your life? I think it's basically going to come down to attitude and your mindset and your outlook.
Here's one from Chung Lee, who mentioned, Wilson, Jenny, what do you think is the biggest strength of your team compared to other teams in the Peninsula area?
You want to take that one, Jenny?
Yeah, thanks, Chung. And I think one of the key things is that we're always constantly looking to educate the community. Our vision is not how many sales we can do, how many homes we can sell and all that. It's like, how can we make a bigger impact for the community, just leave you a little better than we've left off the conversation. You know, we spent an hour on Saturday talking about, talking about your investment goals out of state. And other things for us is that we are investing in our own property as well too. We're living and breathing it too. We're Wilson, him and his family like own over 40 units here in the Bay Area. And how has he been able to do that? Me and my boyfriend, we own 22 units across the country. So we're living and breathing this day by day, and we're really confident in the real estate industry. So that's why we are trying to share this mission for other people to do the same. And I think that goes back to the question of like the market, like where do you see the market going? Homes and shelter is one of the key necessities that people need in life, with water and food. So water, food, and shelter. So we don't see real estate going anywhere. There might be other industries like travel that's going down. There's like other things I'm thinking of, like wedding industries, and like a lot of people like who were planning weddings, they have to cancel their weddings, and they're like, okay, now I have all this money, I want to buy and use that money as a down payment to buy a property so I don't have to pay for rent anymore. And owning these 22 properties, like I'm not scared of any downturn, because when there's a downturn, there's more renters out there. Actually, they can't afford their homes, maybe out of area, so it creates more rental potential, and that's a passive income cash flow that will eventually turn into my future children's college tuition. And also, like if my parents get sick, I can refinance, get that money out, and that will pay for their medical bills, and it'll pay for my monthly retirement income as well. So there's so many great strategies within real estate that I truly believe in. So that's what really sets us apart from other people who, other teams that might not be investing in living and breathing it as well.
Yep. If you believe it, then of course it's gonna come across. And our mission is to build wealth through real estate. It's not, hey, we are really, really good at helping first-time home buyers. We might be, but if that's all that we're good at and we're promoting, what makes us different from our competitors? So to answer your question, it's really going to come down to, we care more about the long term, right? We have been influenced by real estate to see what long-term holding of real estate has done for our family, our wealth, and the potential legacy that we could leave. You know, I'm 32 this year, but I could even talk about, hey, this is what I want to accomplish so I can better my family, right? We recently listened to an Ed Mylett talk, and it's, are you that one person in your family, in that family tree, that has made the difference to set yourself and your family apart so that they could live successfully and have an easier way of life? Are you going to be that person? Are you willing to sacrifice to be that person right now? And going back to that, what we share with our clients is, hey, look, whether you buy this year, you came to us to talk about buying, but if you're not ready, I'm not in a position to push you, but I will be here. And if you think about it in 3 years, or if you had a short sale in the past and you have to wait a grace period of 5 years, for example, I'll still be here. You know, I'm not going anywhere. I don't care if you do it now or later. I care more so about if you feel like this is the right time for you, right? That's going to set us apart from other agents, because other agents, they realize, oh, fuck, it's hella hard to do business right now. What am I going to do, right? I'm going to come across as commission breath, and I'm going to encourage everyone to buy or everyone to sell just because I want them to. That's the wrong way of doing business. So we don't do that. You know, we want to have an abundance of people that we're working with, so they will self-identify and raise their hand because we've been there for them. Because 2 years ago, I told them, hey, you know what? It doesn't make sense for you to sell right now. I think you should wait. And they finally, something happens and they remember us for that. Or I go into a listing presentation and they say, hey, how much is my house is worth? And I'm going to tell them, hey, Jenny, before I tell you about how much it's worth, have you considered keeping it? What if you could rent it out? What if you could get income from it and you can still move to Atlanta because that's where you want to be with your family? Am I willing as an agent to have a conversation like that? Because it comes across if I'm not, if I just talk about the selling because they called you about that. That's a trap.
Thank you. And everyone, appreciate all the questions. We're getting to them in order. So thanks for hanging in there. Here's one from Jessica. Is it daunting to see the 86% of agents who enter this industry fail? Was there a certain point in time where you finally realized that real estate could potentially be a reliable source of income?
I think Jenny is a little less far removed from joining the field, so I'll let her answer that, but I'll give you another statistic.
Yeah.
We all like to consider ourselves entrepreneurs. Did you know entrepreneurs fail 97+% of the time? So anyone that's starting any new business, the
I know that.
attrition rate is high.
I know that. Yeah.
So Jenny?
Yeah, I think overall, I would say that 86% are of overall all real estate agents nationally who might get their license and maybe sell one deal or 0 deals their first year. But I think the difference with lining yourself with a great team and great mentors is what's going to set yourself apart. Ultimately, it's your mindset. And I never ever had a doubt where I would think that real estate would be a reliable source of income because I had so much confidence in the support and the coaching that Wilson was able to give me, and the support and the systems that overall he's created and we've improved over time. And seeing Hassam and Ellie and Wesley and Ashley, who've joined the team afterwards, they're all crushing it. So seeing like Ellie bought her mission, her goal was to buy a Jeep and upgrade from her, was it a Honda Accord back then. So she was able to do that like late last year, just a little over a year into the business. So I think as long as you surround yourself with the right people and keep the right positive mindset, then things will come.
Yeah. Who's in your life that knows what you want, but it's not letting you settle? Who's that person in your life? Think about it. Let's say you climb the corporate ladder. You climb it for 20 years and you fucking hate it at the 20th year. Are you ready to restart? Have you thought about if what you're doing is worth your time? Is it, as Jenny would say, what is it? There's a job, there's what are those 3 things?
Or a calling.
Yeah. How do you know if it's your calling? I can tell you that real estate, I don't love real estate. I don't love making sure that I talk to 25 people a day. I don't love going out in the field and knocking on doors and having conversations with strangers, but I know that's what it's going to take. I don't love it, but I love the future outlook for what I do, right? Is that more important for me? Hell yeah. Or is it going to Costco and getting my pepperoni slice of pizza? Maybe I'll reward myself for that, but I mean, but at the end of the day, you got to tie it to what you want to accomplish. Have you identified what that is? And shit's going to get tough, and who's there for you to help you to make sure you don't succumb to your bad habits or you being comfortable.
Thank you. Here's one from Karina, kind of piggybacking off what you just mentioned, Jenny. What training does your team provide? How do you keep your team going in the shelter in place right now?
We're constantly learning. We meet as a team every single day at 8:30 on Zoom here, and we're going over the conversations that we're having, the training that our team provides. We have coaching, Wilson coaching every single Wednesday, and you will also have a mentor as well too. So Wesley mentors people, and every single person on our team is capable of becoming a mentor, and you'll be aligned with someone who will coach you and train you and guide you and handhold you throughout your first year and a half, or even your whole time here. I think it's not like only having one mentor. You have like a team of like 10 mentors here. And what else do we do?
Yeah, we do the uncomfortable. So if you like your ass getting whooped because you are striving for something, we're the place to be. If you want to be comfortable, you can stay at home. You can continue what you're doing. But setting that aside, it's most importantly understanding what you want. Sharing that with other people so that you can have more conversations about it, dive deeper so that you can get closer to it. You know, it's one thing to think about it and then go back to playing video games. And it's another thing to think about it and how do I plan ahead and put something on my calendar so I can get closer to my goal.
Thank you, guys. Here's one from Legend. Similar question to before. Maybe if there's anything else you want to add. What makes your team better than the rest? If there's anything else that you guys want to add to that? If not, we'll go to Elon, which is the next question for Wilson and Jenny. Thank you for your time this session, being where you are now with both of your careers in real estate. What are some of the biggest challenges you are currently dealing with, and how are you addressing those challenges and transforming it into new opportunities?
Yeah, some of the challenges were we're not able to show as many properties. I think we're only able to show like vacant properties. There are some homes that we can show, but we have to take all the precautionary measures. Real estate is deemed an essential business, so we are still able to conduct business here, at least in California. I'm not sure about other states. I think in New York you have to do more virtual tours. So that's how we're doing it. Just transitioning a lot more virtually, having virtual meetings, doing one-on-one coaching and one-on-one consultations with my clients over Google Hangouts or Zoom. I've done listing appointments virtually. I'm just like, show me your house. Okay, you should paint your fireplace. Let's redo the tile. Let's add a backsplash there. You can see everything on camera. We don't have to be there physically. And just transforming and addressing these challenges is being able to spend more time on the business versus like just in the business. So how can we improve all our systems and reaching out to people and just like, for example, like I'm able to send a lot more mailers out and directly write handwritten cards and notes to people I've spoken to. So that's one specific old timer way, but that's not really a new thing, but a lot of people forget it because people are just so focused on social media. They always forget the value of a handwritten card.
Yeah, and for me, one of my biggest challenges has always been wasting time and the value of my time. And you know, I'm sure a lot of you on this call have probably lost someone that's meant a lot to you, and you realize that life is short. No matter if they died of old age or it was a freak accident, or you had expectations of doing certain things with these individuals, and you realize that maybe there were some things that you did want to do, and you know, as much as it's a sad situation, what's the positive from it? What can you learn from it, right? And it's tying it to the value of your time. We don't have all the time in the world. The last thing I want personally is to wake up tomorrow finding out that I can't knock doors anymore. I can't progress what I wanted to do, or not waking up at all. Like, think about that. One of Gary V's most morbid things that he says, but reality checks him all the time, is every day he wakes up and he thinks about his parents dying. If this was this was my last day I was going to spend with them, am I really going to be doing whatever it takes to make sure that I can achieve what I define as success, or what I define as what I want to do with my parents? Think about that, right? We get trapped in the moment of what we do on a day-to-day, and we talk shit and we gossip. But if we tie it back to why we're so driven, and for me, it's not wasting time. I don't want to waste time, you know? Anyways.
Appreciate that. Here's one from Sang. Wilson and Jenny, if you guys were to start this career over, what is one or two things you wish you would have done differently? And thanks for her presentation, by the way. She loved it.
I think in the beginning, I would always like beat myself down if like, oh, how come this client didn't work with me or something like that. But I think shifting that mindset, which I have been able to do in the last year, is like, okay, what is that? What is the gift in this situation? It's a shitty situation, even with the pandemic going on. What is the gift? Always focus on the positive. So if you have like, look on each side, if it's like the positive side of the story and the negative side, if you're looking at one side or the other, and one is positive, one is negative, you can't see the other side. Because you're just focusing on the negative. So always shifting stories to the positive story. And I always challenge people as well in a team, and like, especially with my boyfriend, he's sometimes like when we ever get bummed out about something, I'm like, okay, tell me that story in a more enlightened way. And it could just be just a comment. I'm like, tell me that in a more enlightened way. And just reshifting into that more positive mindset is what I would always recommend, because that's what's going to get you to success.
Yep. For me, if I was to start over, I would probably challenge myself to take that leap of faith, to ask more questions to more people, to get more feedback faster than I did. A lot of us, we like to think that we're really independent people, that we can do it on our own, that we want to justify to ourselves that we can accomplish it by doing it ourselves and grinding it through. In reality, if you want to experience success faster, you probably need to rely, and also it's a mutual win-win relationship of having more conversations with others, understanding their experiences, their skills, and what it took for them to reach whatever it is that they have. So I would definitely challenge myself to have more uncomfortable conversations with the people that I would look up to. I would identify the top 5+ people that are doing things at a high level, and I'm just going to blindly reach out to them and ask for their time.
I think another key thing about that when you're asking for their time, because a lot of people are like, oh, can you mentor me? Can you teach me everything you need to know? But I think another thing that you need to do is like, what can you provide for them? Like, what can you provide this mentor or this person I look up to? I remember going into the meeting with Wilson for one of our first interviews, and I brought a stack of like handwritten letters that I like 50 letters, like, hey, I'm going to send these letters out to people who are going through default or pre-foreclosure right now. And I think that was one value he saw in, because it's not like, hey, I'm just taking and taking from Wilson. It's like, this is what I'm working on and I can help provide for you too.
Yeah. It's kind of like if you're dating, for those that remember those days or are still dating to this day, and you just go on the first date and afterwards you're debating like, should I call this person? Should I text this person? Should I send her flowers? And me being stupid, I would ask maybe the person like, hey, do you want flowers? That doesn't work, right? You have to be proactive. Be proactive.
Appreciate the dating advice, Wilson. Here's one from Stan. What's the first step we should take getting licensed, and also recommendations where to get training for the license?
I did mine online at realestateexpress.com. I would say just go through it and get licensed. You don't have to like follow every single detail. Just get it done. Prep Agent on YouTube. There's a lot of videos right when you take the exam in person that trains you on it. And other people have taken classes at community colleges that are free, but Real Estate Express, like for me, it worked because I like to handle it on my own time, and it was like $200.
Yeah, I did the same, Real Estate Express, and then prepagent.com to study for the test for like 2 days. So you can look up those online. Another one from DJ here. Have you seen people work a regular job and do real estate, but have mass success at it?
Yeah, so I would say there's different sides of real estate. There's being a real estate agent. There's being a real estate investor as well. My boyfriend, he works full-time at ADP here, and on the side, he does invest in properties with me. So I would say we are very successful on that channel. Being a part-time real estate agent, I don't quite honestly know as many agents that are fully successful in both. But they might be really successful in like the referral. They just send referrals and have someone else manage it. I've seen a lot of success from referral agents.
Yeah, let's just say if you were a full-time agent, you're still in the minority of success. So if you're a part-time agent, imagine that.
Here's a really good question from here. Hopefully I'm saying that right, sorry. Wilson, you mentioned it takes 3 to 4 months until you see money. Can you break it down for someone who is entering the field in terms of how to be prepared financially at the beginning? Since it's 1099 commission only, it sounds like put money away on the side that's going to be enough for 4 to 5 months, longer. What do you recommend?
Yeah, I think it's going to take some long-term planning. Of course, you want to have some reserves. I wouldn't say there's a specific amount of reserves that you need. You could break it down based on your expenses you need monthly. But I think it goes back to if you understand the value of your time, or if you don't, and we can explain that to you about doing certain activities and making a higher dollar per hour wage if you focus the activities with your time. You're going to have a little bit of hardship in the beginning, but it's very worth it because you know that you're going to have a big pipeline for the rest of your career, right? I think anything that's worth it, it's going to take a leap of faith. And hopefully you have the mentorship, and we can talk through a business plan the first 90 days that you should be able to build a big enough pipeline and to be on full commission, and you'll be very happy about it. So I don't know if that answers specifically your questions, but of course, I think every single person's responsibilities in life is going to be a little bit different. So I'm not going to dive into expenses and all that.
And how I would want to correlate this is some people, they might go back to college, get their master's degree, or get their MBA, for example. So sometimes that's like 2, 3, 4+ years that they're not really making income as well too. So maybe like the 3 to 4 months, if you just shift in our mindset, hey, this is like my education period where I'm learning, and this is like real life education where I'm fully in the field, and the success will come. People get their MBAs to maybe like get a 50% raise on their, maybe 100% raise on their income. But here in real estate, you can get a 400% or 4 times or 5 times or 6 times or even more from what you were making before. So think of it more of the educational time frame, and not just worry about the money.
Yeah. At least you don't have to spend money to educate yourself, but you have to show a proactive way to sustain on, you know, a team that might have a little higher standards than just being a solo agent.
I don't see any of the questions. There's a general question about recording. Yes, we will be sending this recording out to everyone who has an email registered. If you don't or know someone that wants to listen to this, just drop their email on here and we can all send it to them. The last thing I see here is a message that says, I love the F-bombs. And I'm only sharing that just to touch on the fact that we keep it real. And if you are hearing the F-bombs or are hearing opinions and things about different matters, we keep it real. We're a tight group here. We've known each other for a long time. And we hope that the team that you guys choose to join as well also keeps it real with you. So thanks for that comment, but just keep it going. No more questions here, you guys.
Some people ask about the 100-point checklist. It's like basically the calls, the appointments we're having, asking for referrals, getting reviews. So I will send this out as well. And we'll send that with the email if you want to drop your email. If you did find value in this webinar, we do have a few more upcoming. We are very social, so if you found value, please check us out on Yelp or Zillow or Google and write a positive 5-star review. It would really help us so we can get more content out there, and our goal is to impact more people, so more people will be able to see our team and the content that we're providing. Next week, we will be hosting a passive income webinar on Wednesday from 4:30 to 6 p.m. on how me and my boyfriend specifically got from 0 to 22 units of local property here in the Bay Area and out of state. So mark that on your calendars. We will be sending a Eventbrite link out as well too for that.
Hey, Jenny, there was a question that came in from Sam. I think, Sam, that could be a good opportunity for you to email Jenny. She's done this in the past, currently still doing it. Maybe if you want to take that offline and help Sam out, that'd be great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think next week will be a great way for us to dive into that in more details. We're going to go over the deals and specifically of the cash flow per deal that we've been getting.
Yep. I appreciate everyone being here. If you guys have specific questions, definitely email us. We'll send you the links to any future seminars we do. If you want to continue exploring the process with us, definitely send me an email or send Jenny an email, and we'll make sure you follow through our recruiting process.
We'll stay on the line for a few more minutes in case anyone else
You guys can unmute yourself too. If you guys have a question, you just ask.
Or any feedback, we want to always hear recommendations and always like to grow.
Yeah,
good job, guys. I love your presentation. Thanks for sharing the information.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks for being here.
He has a podcast on, it's called Everything Real Estate Investing. So follow him on any podcast platform. I am on one of the, if you search Jenny Long, I'm on, I think episode 27, 30.
I don't remember, but you were pretty early there.
So on episode 27, so I share a little more about my story on his podcast. But he's interviewed a lot of amazing people all across the Bay Area and across the country of specific tactics and tools. How many episodes are you at right now?
Probably almost 150.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And by the way, I want to share that when I have a deal, I don't like being an agent, so I just refer them to Jenny, and she takes care of all of them. Really good.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah.
Happy to hear that.
Wait, what was this podcast called?
It's called Everything Real Estate Investing with Sean Pan, SEANPAN.
Okay, got it.
Quick question for you guys. I know that you guys have an office, I think, in the Peninsula, or do you guys meet up in San Francisco? What do you do if, let's say, you're in the South Bay? Are you expecting them to come up to your office every morning to hang out with your crew?
I can add some. Are you saying as a team member, Sean?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, historically, before the shelter in place, we've had an expectation for all 1099 and W-2 employees to show up for huddles. The reason why is it's very helpful. It's a place where we can start our day, hopefully positively, because sometimes I might bring shit up, but it's a place and a time where we can all start our day stronger than if we were doing it alone. And we currently have resorted to doing it on Zoom, and it works. However, we realize that just like meeting someone face to face, it's so much more impactful and it's so much more memorable, and there's so much more that could be done in person. And as much as there's a lot of brokerages and there's a lot of talk about things moving digital, we're fucking human beings, man. We need each other. You know, if we didn't have Zoom, if we didn't have technology, we'd probably be going crazy. Probably need drugs and alcohol, but just kidding. But we do meet every day.
Like, without the physical meetups, it's definitely not the same as,
Yeah.
And
It's
are you
definitely not.
huddles every single day or once a week?
It's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. We have a skip day for some contrast.
Gotcha. Cool.
We do have some team members who are not fully, like, they're with the brokerage and they are part-time agents, and they bring deals and do listings, but they are not required to meet because they're more licensed under the brokerage versus our team under the brokerage. And our brokerage is Own Real Estate, and then our team is Wilson Leung Real Estate Associates under Own Real Estate. And we're owned by Side currently.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Another thing is anything that's cohesive and it's committed probably meets in some sort of frequency. So that's why we do that so often, because we see the importance of doing that together.
And where's your office again?
It's in Millbrae.
Got it.
Any other feedback, comments, questions, love that you want to send Jenny's way?
I'm actually about to hop off right now. Just wanted to say thank you, Wilson and Jenny. Make sure to stay in touch. So yeah, have a nice day. And thanks for hosting this. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Elon. Thank you, everyone, where we can see your faces as well. Thanks, Kyle, for joining. Thanks, Chung. Thanks, Jen.
Hi, thanks, Jenny. Thanks for the webinar. I have to hop off now, but this was very interesting. Gave me kind of insight on real estate because I'm relatively new. It's very interesting to just get more knowledge. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you. I have to hop off now.
Probably wrap up then.
Yep. Thank you, everyone, for being here. If you have questions, like we said, just reach out. Appreciate your time. Enjoy the sunshine.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Yeah.